It is time for a new studio tour because I realized the last one I did was all the way back in 2016. And although last year we had some updates here in the control room and in the live room, and I shot video of all that, I never did an actual walkthrough of the whole studio. So that's what we're going to do today. Now I'm shooting this with my iPhone using the Double Take app so I can have the front and the back camera going. Not gonna look as good as the Panasonics, but it's gonna make it way easier for me to do this by myself. Let's get to it. Going to start off here in the front, which is the area no one ever really sees, and that's the little lounge area. Got a couch, chair, the all-important coffee maker, microwave, convection oven, you know, fridge, all of that stuff. This is where all the snacks are kept. Got the cool little Fender amp and the Chief's gnome. Gotta have that. And the shrine to Oscar, the first official studio dog of Ultimate Studios. A few of the drum heads. It's one of my favorites. Even though Chad Smith tried to say this place is Raider-esque, I still like him. He's a cool dude. Over here out in the front, it's a little dark right now, but there is a patio out here with a couple little, you can kind of see the lights there. There's a table and chairs out there. All right, back to the control room. You may have seen the video from last year about the update to this whole desk, the console, the racks, and the new cloud and light bar. If you haven't, I will put links to those in the descriptions, but I can tell you that having used this now for about the last 9 or 10 months, I am really happy with how it all is laid out. While I have made quite a few changes to the gear, or at least where some of that gear is, the overall layout has stayed the same and it's worked out really well. Right side is where all the connectivity is, the central nervous system there, the patch bay with the print laptop right above. Directly underneath that is all the I/O, the good old Motus. 24 I/Os and a 424 card, been rock solid. The print I/O is the Apogee, the headphone system, and then there's all the tie lines. There's 2 channels for XLR that are here in the control room, and the rest of these are either stereo or mono loops, and then there's 4 speaker lines on the right. That is all the connectivity between the rooms, like from here to the ISO booth to my right, the live room, and the ISO booth in the back. The next rack underneath here has a couple DBXs and Apexes, as well as a pair of Overstayer Pre's. Those Motus that are down there we only use for live stream double recording. One of the fun racks up here at the top. This one's changed quite a bit actually since it went in. The newest rack is this 10-space Trident that has a pair of 535 Rupert Neves, pair of 551s. The new high-lows, just did a video on them. You've got to check these out, they're great. Trident 80B EQ, Tone Lux. Can't show you that, you don't know what that is. You definitely won't know what it is because there's no markings on it. I'll tell you later. The Heritage, a couple favorite pieces of gear up here. The TS 500s from Sound Sculptor, love these. This is relatively new to me, the Cush Electra. This thing is really cool. If you haven't tried these out, you gotta look at these. IGS Tube Core, the DIY RE. These are fun also. I have a pair of Royal Blues here, and then in this top slot I have a pair of the 15 IPs. They're super cool. Trident A-Range EQs, SSL compressor, and then the Tone Lux stuff here, the TX5C, which is awesome also, and so is the EQ5P. This is kind of a little jack of all trades rack right there. The console, it goes without saying. This is probably my favorite piece of gear in the whole studio. Obviously it gets used the most because it's used on every single, I can't really do a session without using it, so, but it is awesome. Having 32 channels has been great too. Another big change up last year was the switch to the Atom A7X monitors, and I'm really happy with how they're working out. I love that I can work longer hours, because I quite often do, and my ears don't get quite so fried. You know, usually I'm monitoring pretty low volumes anyway for most of the day, but these are real smooth to listen to, but still has a very articulate high end. So I'm real happy with how that's worked out. And I've added the sub, you can see down back there. This rack over here is the compressor rack. Revive modded WA76. Cannot say enough good things about Jason over at Revive Audio. They do great work. So if you have gear that they will mod, have it done, because I think you'll be really happy with it. That went from something that I didn't really use all that much to something I now use all the time. Hairball Audio 1176, the Day King FET 3 is amazing. You know, if you've seen any recent videos, you know I love my Comp 54s from Golden Age. And this AMS Neve 8803 EQ, great. And the recall software is an added bonus, works really well. This is also my guitar pedal station. I have a pair of radial ecstasies. This is mono, that one's stereo. I keep a few of the pedals that get used all the time over here. The rest are out in the live room we'll get to in a minute. I have an Electro Harmonics power brick over here on the side so I can just easily power however many pedals I need. Having them right next to me makes it easy to plug things in and try different chains out and experiment. Bottom rack, 4 channels of Dynamite compressors. I absolutely love those. Same with the Overstayer, the VCA, great. The Rupert Neve 5043, and a Revive modded Pro VLA. Again, Jason does great work. And then a good old Alesis Dirty 630. Doesn't get a whole lot of use anymore, but occasionally, you know, gotta pull that sucker out. Over here, the recently fixed Fostex R8. Video and a lot of audio coming to a set of speakers near you soon. Ooh, another cool piece of gear, the Radial Phaser. Print bus. Bunch of videos with this at the end of last year, all the Christmas stuff, the Rocking Around the Christmas Tree and Jingle Bell Rock, but it's the Allen Smart C1, Rupert Neve 542, SSL Ultraviolet EQ, and this goes straight to the apogee to the print computer. Some of the outboard effects, love my TC stuff, especially that M3000. The Yamaha Pro R3, another favorite of mine. Can't go wrong with an SPX 90, but the Alesis stuff is where I have the most fun. This MIDI Verb 2 and the Cascaded Quad Verbs, they're a little gritty, a little dirty, but man, in context, you can come up with some really cool sounds, and I just dig them. Over here to the left, so here I'm gonna back up so you can kind of get an idea of the room. So, console, and over here to the left is Delilah's bed. You can see she's snoring soundly. And this is the live stream video editing rig. We've got a 27-inch iMac with the second large monitor, and there's actually another monitor down here that we use when we're live streaming, and that's the program monitor. But most everything happens with the iMac here. Live stream, the ATEM switch, and the Ultra Studio. Also have a plethora of hard drives. Video takes up a ton of space. Another must-have piece of gear right here is one of these docks. This is a Thunderbolt dock from OWC. It's got some connectivity on the front, USB, it's got a card reader. On the back it has eSATA, Thunderbolt, USB. We have the iMac maxed out. There's no open ports in the back of that. And that dock is maxed out. So without that dock, it'd be possible to have everything hooked up. And that is the live stream rig. Now there's one more new thing that just happened yesterday. Well, for me yesterday, I don't know when you're watching this video, but this back wall has finally been finished. This is something I've been testing for quite a while now. Just like I did with the live room, I had stuff hanging all over the place, different depths, different materials, doing a bunch of testing. So this middle panel is new. This is 9.5 inches thick, 6 inches of Roxol, 3.5 inches of Johns Manfield. The same thing with this over here, but it's only 8 inches thick. The 2 black panels, those were already in here. And then it's a super chunk in the corner right there. Huge difference with this going in, gigantic. The room now is way more even. The sweet spot is even bigger. It's not as boomy back on the couch like it was before. So now if clients are to sit in the back, it's not gonna be so crazy depending on where you're sitting. So it helped out quite a bit. There's also a couple new panels back on this wall. On the sides, I had some pretty gnarly looking panels hanging there for a while I was doing a bunch of testing. And then they've all been finished, the same thing with these panels that were already there, to match with that gray. And I think it looks pretty slick actually. What else? Oh, this is a fun one. And this is new also. These slick tripod arms. And yes, they are slick. This allows me to ditch the tripods for the cameras so they can mount right there off the shelf. This bottom arm is about 2 feet, so you can move it up and down. You got the boom arm, so it makes placement of this camera much easier. We have one HDMI cable that runs down and goes over to the switch for live streams. There is a GoPro that hangs right above the console right there. And I have another one of those slick arms coming for this side, so I'll be able to have cameras on both sides. We can hang them over the racks. We'll be able to frame things very easily now, which was a little difficult before when we were trying to fit tripods around this whole setup. This is gonna make it so much easier. Another thing is these little Alonzi lights. These here, I've got one over here. These guys. These things are really cool. They're only like 24, 25 bucks. They're really bright. Woo! Shouldn't have looked at the light. But they're RGB, so you can do colors. They're great accent lights, as you can see that I'm using them right now on the monitors, on the Atoms. But usually for a live stream, we flip them around, or when we're doing the videos, so we have a couple facing us. I'll have one over the camera. These are also great to sit around the kit or anywhere in the live room. You can just kind of face them and you get really cool accent lighting or backlighting with them. And they're cheap. And that is pretty much everything here in the control room. Next up is the ISO booth right off the control room, which I'm sure if you've watched any of the other videos, you've heard us, talk about the ISO booth or point over, but you never really get to see it because we never have a camera in here. And right now it's got a Marshall in here. This is not a big ISO booth. It is about 12 feet long, but it's only about 5 feet wide, but it is really, really tight. There is a lot of broadband absorption in here, all over. And this entire wall is all Roxel, the entire wall. There is a cloud up here. Oh, there we go. This is the old cloud that used to be in the control room, and it's an identical light bar. And it makes this room really, really tight. So it's great for vocals. We got the Marshall in here, so we do a lot of guitars in here. It's also nice with acoustic guitars or anything you want to sound really intimate and just right here, this is where we do it. Vocals, acoustic guitar, anything like that. Lighting wise, this is one of my favorite things. I use the Wiz LED, the Wi-Fi LEDs. So I have a remote with 4 different presets and I can still control them from the phone. So if I want to change the colors, I can, but right now it's on 1, which is full on. 2, ooh, mood lighting. 3, ooh, oh, ah. These things work really, really well. And what is behind door number 1? Oh, look at that. Okay, this is the mic locker, and it's a mess. I need to build some new shelving because I'm way out of room. The bottom is a bunch of Roswells and some Cascades. The next one up, Roswell. Then we get into my AT, the Audio-Technica stuff, the AKGs, some mic parts. Up here, the 57 box, the Heil, the PR30s, PR40, bunch more Audio-Technicas. All the shock mounts are up there. This is also where the headphones are, and the big kahuna down there, the V251. That's all hidden behind that door right there. And that is the ISO booth. Let's go out here to the live room. Now this is another huge upgrade last year, or update I should say. I'll do a quick roundabout. I'll put links in the description also. So all of this was new. All of this in the back, those skylines, absorbers were new. That panel's new. That was it. Oh, the ceiling, done. That is all new as well. It's about 600 square feet total, just shy of 600 square feet. So it's a good amount of room. It sounds really nice in here. Let's walk over here to the snare rack. This is one of my favorite parts of the room. These are the snares that get used the most, I would say. Well, it's also all I have room for out here. Anton Fig, Yamaha, if you want a killer cross stick sound, this is the snare. 8-inch Black Beauty. There's actually a lot of Ludwig here, because you can't really, have a studio and make great music without some Ludwig drums. Another one of my favorites is this 5x14 8-lug classic maple. Character with the raw copper. Ooh, here's another one. This guy right here, this 8x14 classic oak. That is an amazing sounding drum. This is the one I've personally had the longest, this Pearl. I got back in 1991 at Explorers Percussion in Kansas City. And even though I wasn't from Kansas City, I was about an hour south of there. Explorers that's my hometown drum shop. And that is the only drum I have left from when I was in high school, actually. Down here, a couple more Black Beauties. Ooh, this is a good one too, this Yamaha steel snare. I mean, all of these are really nice sounding snares. Oh, can't forget about this one, the 402. It's got a bunch. This one I will not let anyone tune. It's taped up, it's fat, it sounds so good, and if anyone takes a drum key to that one, the finger's getting cut off. Well, maybe not that drastic, but I'll yell. Then over here, this is the rest of the guitar pedals. Most guitars get done out here, so I keep the pedals. 5150's killer, the OCD. This is a modded DS1. It sounds really cool. What else is here? This 2 Pilot. This is actually pretty cool too. This thing is crazy. You can do some really nutty stuff with that. Octafuzz is great. There's the DIs. I have 6 different headphone boxes total. There's 4 of them. Well, there's 3 right here. The other one's on the drums behind me. But I can't say enough good things about these. Behringer got this one right. And they're relatively inexpensive also. Got the Ludwig kit with some Peisty Pies out right now. And I do the drums in this area a lot now. It just sounds really good. But my other favorite area is this corner back over here. So it's gonna be one of those 2 spots that I usually do the drums in. They have a little bit different vibe. It also kind of depends on musicians in the room, how many people were trying to track at the same time. So that might have an effect on where I put something. Back wall over here is where the guitar amps are. Well, the Marshall's up in the ISO booth, and I think the Bagheera's in the back ISO booth, which we'll get to in a minute. This is one of my favorites. This is a JBL Fender. Let's see if you can see those speakers in there. They're 15-inch subs. And it's not a very deep cabinet either. You can see how deep the Mark bass is right there. This is not very deep, but it sounds great. It's got a lot of character. The Framus Dragon, and this Framus guitar, also one of Ernesto's. This sounds awesome. I actually love that guitar. We use it quite a bit now too, because it just sounds really good. The Mark bass 4x10. This is actually one of Minnow's Ampeg heads that sounds really nice. But perhaps one of my favorite things in here is this Polytone Mini Brute 3. I love this on bass. It is small yet mighty, and it cranks too. Pretty cool on guitar as well. And that is pretty much everything. Oh, how am I forgetting the piano? Yamaha U1. Sounds really nice. This is an M3. You can see the old speaker down there that is no longer hooked up. We modded it so we can use it with any one of the amps. And it sounds really freaking cool too. And then if you start adding pedals, any of those pedals over there into the chain, you can come up with some really cool, organ type sounds or guitar type sounds or just wacky type sounds with it. So it's more of it's like a giant plug-in really, and it's a whole lot of fun. This is the main patch panel, obviously. So the top 2 rows are 32 channels going directly to the Trident. And there's speaker lines right there. If you have so you could have the head for the guitar amp in the control room and the cabinet out here. We can use those speaker lines. There's the mono loops. Tie lines below there. here's all the connectivity for the live room. You got the top 2 rows are the XLRs that go straight to the Trident, speaker lines. So you could have a head in the control room and a speaker cab out here, the mono and stereo loops, the tie lines, the Ethernet cables for the headphones, the BNC for the live stream rigs, and then there's 2 more TRS jacks down there, and those go up to the speakers that are up here in the ceiling. I also have the console hooked to those. So you could be out here and say you had a laptop and you needed to monitor something, I can send you that cable, you can plug it right in, you can have stuff coming out through the speakers, or I can send anything from the console. Maybe it's music coming back out in the room, or I might need to use it for talkback if people are out here and are not using headphones. So it just makes it very convenient to have some speakers up here, and they get pretty loud, which is cool. All right, let's go take a look at the back ISO booth. This room, back ISO, is where I like to do a lot of my guitars and bass. It has a lot more size to it. It's kind of a utility room, or a multi-purpose room for me. I have these huge curtains that block off the other half of the room, which I'll show you in just a second. I keep a lot of my gobos back here, extra ones. I have these big 6-footers. This is a 3-panel gobo. It's about, I think each one of these is almost 3 feet, so it's quite wide. A couple others right here. But there is easily enough room for a couple amps. And I will sometimes even have 2. I'll put some gobos here, and I'll have an amp here, and I'll have an amp right here. No worries about bleed. I've even done that with a bass amp and a guitar amp before, and it works really well. But unlike the front ISO, I don't have a hard wall right here. So the room itself has some volume, so you can really crank it up back here. I only have 4 mic lines wired up at the moment, but I do have 8-pair snake in here, and I am going to get the rest of it wired up sometime soon. I have 2 tie lines, 2 speaker lines, a headphone Ethernet jack, and I have 2 HDMI ports. The reason I have those is it gives me the ability to put someone back here. And I've put upright bass back here, I've put percussion back here. Haven't done full drums yet, but that is on the docket. With those HDMI cables, I'll have a GoPro on one side and a monitor, and then on the other side I'll have another GoPro and another monitor, and that gives line of sight to whoever is in the room. And I put a talkback mic in so everybody can talk to each other. So that way, you can almost get your own fort back here and just have a video camera seeing everyone, and it works really, really well. So these 2 really tall, these are 8-foot tall gobos. Then on this side, here's where all the goodies are kept. I can't get through. This is where all the extra drums are. Got all the extra kick drums for the classic maple. There's another one up there. See my Pearl kick back there. There's the Pearl toms. That's from the very first Pearl drum set I got back when I was an endorser. This snare, this is a great snare, I think this is a 6x12 Pearl Maple. I actually won this, got Drummer of the Year when I was at Musicians Institute. And that was what I won. There's another kick drum down there from the classic maple. There's the white Gretsch back there. This rack is usually where all my classic maple stuff goes, minus the big 18-inch tom, and then that space right there is for the 24 that's out in the live room right now. But all the drums are kept here. You can see there's the curtains. I can actually put a room mic back here if I wanted, and it would totally work. Here is my very messy soldering station. Can't believe I'm showing this to you. Actually, it's, by my standards, the way it's been, it's actually quite clean. But that's the back ISO. It works really well. I'm still finishing a few things off back here, and once I get that done, I will do some update videos. Gonna get some drums and things back here too, just to kind of get a different sound, because it's dry and tight, but it's not as tight as the front ISO. And that is the studio. I'll put the links to the control room makeover and the live room makeover in the description. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. And as always, happy recording. We'll see you in the next video.